There's a lot of alphabet soup going on in the finance industry, and so in this video I'm going to be talking about several popular finance designations and degrees, and it's really explaining what these things are so that when you are finding a finance professional to work with, you know exactly what those fancy letters behind their names mean. Hey Wealth Builders, it's Akiva and welcome back to another episode of The Bemused, where we are making sense of all things money for the bewildered and confused young adult. So if you haven't heard, there are a lot of designations and degrees and letters out there in the finance world, specifically in personal finance. I actually have a little bit of alphabet soup going on myself, if you didn't know. So on official documents, this is what my name looks like in my email signature and all of that. And so in this video, I'm going to be talking about a lot of popular degrees and designations. So I'm going to be talking about the MBA, the MSFP, the CPA, the PFS, the CFP, the ChFC, and the CFA. So if you want to know what all of those letters mean, make sure you keep watching. So first, let's start with degree programs. So let's start with an MBA, which is a very common degree that a lot of people have, which is a Master of Business Administration. So like I said, this is a degree program, but since it is an advanced degree, you'll most times see those letters after someone's name. So to get into an MBA program, most schools will require you to take an admissions test like the GMAT, which is the Graduate Management Admissions Test, or the GRE. Most schools also require you to have some prerequisites in general business concepts. And if you don't have them when you're coming in from a business undergrad, you'll most likely have to take these types of classes once you start your program. And those classes are generally in the areas of accounting, marketing, statistics, economics, and finance. So an MBA is typically between 30 and 40 credits, so between like 10 and 13, 14 classes or so. And it basically teaches you general business concepts. So it isn't specific to personal finance by any means, but it does teach you general business concepts. And if you want to niche down, a lot of programs have, concentrations that you can choose. So I've seen MBA programs with a concentration where you take 4 or so classes in personal finance or in marketing or in management and leadership, whatever you want to concentrate in. And so you can definitely niche down through electives. Next up is the MSFP, which is the degree that I have, which stands for Master of Science in Financial Planning. This program is definitely not very widely offered. There are just a handful of schools that offer a master's degree specific to personal financial planning. So at my school, here's my certificate so you guys can see. Come on, focus, get it together. So this is my certificate. It's mad huge, as you can see. It covers my entire face. So I got my MSFP at Bentley University. To get into my program, I took the GMAT, and you can also take the GRE, just like the MBA program, for example. So my program was 30 credits, which is 10 classes. So 7 of those classes were required classes, and then I had the option of taking 3 electives across any of the classes offered in the business school. So just to give you a sense of the types of classes I had to take, here are the list of all the classes I took. So I took Professional Financial Planning Practice, which is basically the Introduction to Personal Finance course, Federal Taxation of Income, Investments and Capital Accumulation, Benefits, Compensation and Retirement, Trust, Gifts and Estates, Insurance and Wealth Preservation Planning Techniques, Financial Planning Processes and Cases, which is basically the capstone course, basically a financial planning case study kind of course. And then the 3 electives I took to kind of round out my education were investment vehicles. So investments is definitely one of the areas that I was pretty intimidated by going into this process. So I wanted to take an extra class in investments to just really get comfortable with the subject. So I took investment vehicles as an elective. I also took emotionally intelligent leadership as an elective. Working as a financial planner, there's definitely a high degree of emotional intelligence that is involved, a lot of client psychology and those types of things. And so I wanted to take that course to kind of round out my soft skills on top of all the technical classes that I was taking before. And then last but not least, I took a class called Entrepreneurial Thinking. Having entrepreneurial mindset and entrepreneurial skills are definitely relevant to, I think, a wide range of areas, and it definitely helps me be more innovative and creative in my job. Now let's jump into designations, and this is really where the alphabet soup can get real tasty. So typically with a certification or designation, there are 4 components. So there's an education requirement, an exam requirement, an experience requirement, and there's also a continuing education requirement in most cases in order to maintain your certification. So first let's start with the CPA, or Certified Public Accountant. Now this is probably by far one of the most misunderstood certifications that's out there. A lot of people think CPAs are all about taxes, and that's definitely not true, and you'll see that as we go along in this video. So a CPA license is actually issued by individual states. So I, for example, am licensed in the state of New York. So each state has their own individual licensing requirements, but they're pretty similar across the board. So generally, here's what you need. In terms of education, a bachelor's degree is required for licensure. And you can have a bachelor's degree in any major, but you must have certain types of accounting classes in order to be licensed. Also, in most states, you need to have 150 credit hours in order to be licensed. So most bachelor's degrees only require 120 credits. So what most people do is they'll either have a second major in undergrad, or they will do a graduate program in order to get their 150 credits to be licensed. So I, for example, opted to get 150 credits by doing 2 majors when I was in undergrad. Now the exam. So the CPA exam is actually 4 separate exams. You can take them in any order, but you have to pass them within 18 months of each other. So basically, once you pass your first exam, you have 18 months to pass the next 3. Each exam is 4 hours each, so that's a total of 16 hours of testing in order to become a CPA. And the CPA exams are definitely by far the hardest exams I have taken in my life. Trust me, tears were shed over these exams. So the first exam is called FAR, which stands for Financial Accounting and Reporting. This exam has the largest volume of information, which makes it sometimes the toughest exam. I know for me, FAR was definitely the toughest exam for me. It definitely took me a couple of tries in order to pass that one. So this exam tests key differences between financial statements prepared using US GAAP versus International Financial Reporting Standard. It also tests governmental and nonprofit accounting, which is a course that I was fortunate enough to take in undergrad, so that section actually was not too bad for me, that portion of the exam. The second exam is audit. So auditing encompasses the entire auditing process, plus other services including compilations, reviews, attestation, engagements, and it also tests the AICPA Code of Professional Conduct. And the AICPA is the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, which is the professional organization that many CPAs belong to. Then there's the business exam, which basically covers a wide range of material, including operations, strategic management, economics, financial management, and even IT. So note, I just talked about 3 of the 4 exams, and I haven't even touched taxes yet. So the 4th exam is called regulation, and this is the exam that covers federal taxation and business law. So it's actually a combination, business law and taxes, including ethics and professional responsibilities. So when all is said and done, taxes only account for about 20% of the entire CPA exam. In terms of experience, generally 1 year is required. Now the types of experience that qualify will vary from state to state. But in New York, financial planning definitely counts as qualifying experience, and so that's how I was able to obtain my CPA license. And that'll make even more sense when I talk about the next designation, which is actually a sub-designation of the CPA. In terms of continuing education, I can't ever say that word twice in a row properly. In terms of continuing education, most states require 40 hours of CE. I'm just gonna say CE because that's a lot easier to say. They require either 40 hours per year on any accounting topic, or you can choose to concentrate on one specific topic like financial advisory, and that way you only need 24 CE hours per year in one concentrated area. Next is the PFS, or Personal Financial Specialist. So the PFS is actually a sub-designation of the CPA, and it is actually issued by the AICPA. So naturally, you must have already been a CPA to qualify for their sub-designations like the PFS. So the PFS is really for CPAs who show a commitment to specializing in personal financial planning. The experience requirement for this designation is 3,000 hours, and that can be made in a combination of different ways, part-time, full-time, etc. In terms of the exam, you have 3 options. You can either take the AICPA's PFS exam, which covers a lot of the personal financial planning topics, or you can do what I did, which is I killed 2 birds with 1 stone by passing the CFP exam, or you can also pass the Chartered Financial Counselor exam, and I'm going to talk about those 2 designations in a second. The CE requirements mirror that of the CPA, and so they require 24 hours of CE concentrated in, naturally, personal financial planning. Now for the CFP, the Certified Financial Planner. This is actually my newest designation that I got just a couple of weeks ago. And I've talked about the CFP previously in another video, which I'm going to make sure I link up here so you can go back and get more detailed information if you would like. The CFP is really regarded as like the gold standard certification for financial planners. So here's what you got to do to get it. In terms of education, you need a bachelor's degree. Again, the bachelor's degree does not have to be in any specific major, but you have to have a degree. However, you do have to make sure you complete education coursework that is approved by the CFP board, which is the governing body that issues the CFP designation. So you can complete that coursework either through a certificate program or a degree program like I did by doing my master's. That's how I completed the education requirement for the Certified Financial Planner designation. And you can find which registered programs are out there and available. I will put a link in the description box below. The CFP board has a database where you can search for programs by type, by location, etc. So you can find a program that works for you if you're interested in getting that designation as well. So the exam is a 6-hour, 170-question exam. And yes, the exam is difficult. So here are the content areas that are tested on the CFP exam. And I'm gonna list them in order of highest percentage to lowest percentage. So at 17% of the exam, we have the general principles of financial planning, which kind of encompasses a few different areas. We also have retirement savings and income planning at 17% and investment planning at 17% of the exam as well. Then we have estate planning at 12% of the exam, risk management and insurance planning at 12% of the exam, tax planning at 12% of the exam, professional conduct and regulation at 7% of the exam, and education planning at 6% of the exam. In terms of experience, there are two ways to get it. You can either do 4,000 hours or 6,000 hours of experience, which is equal to 2 years or 3 years roughly. It just depends on the type of experience that you have. In terms of ethics, the CFP board also has you agree, basically, to adhere to the highest standards of ethical practice in everything that you do with your clients, keeping your clients' interests first. And then in terms of continuing education, we need to have 30 hours of CE every 2 years. And that includes 2 hours of ethics. Now, the Chartered Financial Counselor, ChFC designation. So this designation is offered by the American College of Financial Services. So it's actually issued by a college. And it's often seen as kind of an alternative to the CFP. So in terms of education, like I said, it's offered by a college. So the education requirements, they're essentially the same as the CFP board required coursework, which is kind of similar to the 7 classes that I had to take when I was in my master's degree. However, they do add on one more class, which kind of gives you practical applications to financial planning work. So in terms of the exam, there is no exam. You just kind of take the individual courses and whatever exams are associated with those individual classes. For experience, you need 3 years of full-time business experience. And if you have an undergraduate or graduate degree in business, they waive one of those years. And in terms of CE, it's similar to the CFP. You need 30 hours every 2 years. Last but not least is the CFA, or the Chartered Financial Analyst. So this one is issued by the CFA Institute. In terms of education, you need a bachelor's degree, or in lieu of a bachelor's degree, you need 4 years of experience. The exam is a series of 3 grueling exams that are only offered basically once per year. So getting the CFA is definitely a marathon and not a sprint. The level 1, for example, is a 240-question, 6-hour exam. And each level of exams covers the following areas to a certain degree or another. So there's ethical and professional standards, quantitative methods, economics, financial reporting and analysis, corporate finance, portfolio management and wealth planning, equity, fixed income, derivatives, and alternative investments. This designation is really popular among people who really want to work specifically in the investment field. In terms of experience, you need to have 4 years of professional work experience in the investment decision-making process. One weird requirement they have is that you have to have an international passport, so that's a thing. And in terms of CE, there is none required actually, but what they say, and I will quote, "We recommend that CFA Institute members complete a minimum of 20 hours of CE credit activities with a minimum of 2 hours in the topic of standards, ethics, and regulations each calendar year." So these are the most popular designations and degrees in the finance industry, but there are definitely much more out there. There are lots of niche designations, a couple that I'm actually very interested in. You can get a certification in just about anything. College planning, special needs planning, philanthropy, private wealth. There's so many things out there that you can look into if that's of special interest to you. So if you want to learn more about these designations, I'd recommend visiting the FINRA database. They have a database of basically all of the financial certifications that exist, so you can kind of get a quick read up on any certification or area that you're interested in there, so that'll be linked in the description box below. And then I'd also check out the American College of Financial Services. Like I said, they're the body that issues the Chartered Financial Counselor designation, for example. They have some pretty cool designations over there and programs if you're interested in that as well. So I'll also link the American College down in the description box below. So hopefully this video gave you guys some clarity when it comes to what all of these different designations mean. And when you see these letters, you know exactly what it took for that person to acquire those letters and the content area that those letters signify competency in. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss when we post new episodes. Thanks for spending this time with me, and I will see you guys in the next video.